The settlement of New Haven trembled as the massive alien ship descended through the crimson clouds of Kepler 442b. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the reinforced window of the community center, watching the vessel's shadow engulf their carefully constructed homes. The ship was unlike anything in human records, organic curves mixed with metallic surfaces, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed almost alive. "They're back," whispered Mayor Harrison, his weathered hands gripping the communication device. "Third time this month." The Valkyrie had first arrived 6 months ago, shortly after the human colony had established itself on this distant world. What started as curious observation had quickly turned into demands. They wanted tribute. They wanted recognition of their dominance over this sector of space. Most disturbingly, they wanted specimens. Sarah's younger sister Emma sat in the corner, her blonde hair catching the artificial light. At 19, Emma possessed the kind of ethereal beauty that had caught the Valkyrie's attention during their previous visits. The aliens had made their interest clear through their translator devices. They found human females with light coloration particularly fascinating. "We won't let them take anyone," Sarah said firmly, though her voice betrayed her fear. As the colony's xenobiologist, she had studied the limited data they had on the Valkyrie. They were apex predators from a world where strength determined survival. Their society revolved around hunting, conquest, and the collection of trophies from defeated enemies. The communication array crackled to life. A deep rumbling voice filled the room, translated into stilted English by their computers. "Humans of New Haven, we are Thrakvor, pack leader of the Blood Moon clan. Your presence on this world requires compensation." Mayor Harrison stepped forward, activating the response channel. "We've already provided what you asked for. Food supplies, technological data, mineral samples. Insufficient." The word carried weight that seemed to shake the building's foundation. "Your kind fascinates us. Your females possess unique qualities. We require one for our collection. The pale-maned one we observed during our last visit." Emma's face went white. Sarah instinctively moved to shield her sister, but Emma gently pushed her aside. "They mean me, don't they?" The colonists exchanged horrified glances. They had come to Kepler 442b, seeking freedom from Earth's overcrowded cities and authoritarian governments. The planet offered rich soil, breathable atmosphere, and abundant resources. They never expected to become prey for interstellar hunters. "We cannot comply with that request," Harrison said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Our people are not commodities to be traded." A new sound emerged from the speakers, something between a growl and laughter. "Your refusal is noted. However, we have observed your settlement. 43 humans. Primitive weapons. No orbital defenses. Your defiance amuses us, but it changes nothing." Through the windows, they could see shapes moving in the ship's shadow. The Valkyrie were disembarking. Sarah had seen recordings from previous encounters. They stood nearly 8 feet tall with elongated limbs and predatory grace. Their faces bore resemblance to Terran wolves, but with enlarged craniums housing advanced cognitive capabilities. They were evolution's perfect blend of intelligence and primal hunting instinct. "Sarah," Emma whispered, "what happens if I go with them?" "No." Sarah's response was immediate and fierce. "We don't negotiate with kidnappers." Dr. Martinez, the colony's physician, had been studying the Valkyrie's biological data in his spare time. From what we've learned, they view captured specimens as status symbols. They're kept alive in some kind of preserve on their homeworld. "It's not necessarily a death sentence, but it's slavery," Sarah finished. "Emma, you're not going anywhere." The Valkyrie continued their approach. Through telescopic viewers, the colonists could see their distinctive armor, a combination of advanced technology and what appeared to be bones and hides from previous hunts. Each warrior carried weapons that seemed to blend energy projection with traditional hunting implements. "They're not just collectors," Sarah realized aloud. "They're testing us. Every species they encounter goes through this same process. They gauge resistance, determine threat levels, decide whether we're worth conquering or just harvesting." Harrison nodded grimly. "The question is, what kind of impression do we want to make?" Emma stood up, her young face showing determination that surprised everyone. "I have an idea. What if we give them what they want, but not how they expect it?" "Emma, no. Listen to me, Sarah. You said they're testing us, right? What if this isn't about submission? What if it's about proving we're worth something more than just being prey? The proximity alarms chimed. The Velkari were now within the settlement's perimeter. Through the speakers, Thrakvor's voice returned. We grow impatient. Deliver the pale-maned female, or we will take her by force. Your resistance will only make the hunt more entertaining. Sarah looked at her sister, seeing not the frightened teenager she wanted to protect, but a young woman with steel in her eyes. What are you thinking? Emma smiled, and for the first time since the aliens arrived, it was genuine. I'm thinking about something Mom used to say. You remember? If someone underestimates you, let them. Then show them how wrong they are. The settlement's defenders, farmers, engineers, scientists who had never expected to become soldiers, checked their improvised weapons. They had hunting rifles, mining equipment modified for combat, and determination born of desperation. Against Velkari technology and physiology, it seemed laughably inadequate. But Sarah was beginning to understand her sister's plan. The Velkari expected submission or futile resistance. They had encountered thousands of species across the galaxy, and the pattern was always the same. What they hadn't encountered was humanity's particular brand of stubborn creativity. All right, Sarah said finally, but we do this together, all of us. Harrison activated the colony-wide communication system. Citizens of New Haven, this is your mayor. In approximately 10 minutes, we're going to show these aliens exactly what humanity is capable of. Follow Sarah Chen's lead, trust each other, and remember, we didn't come this far to give up now. As the Velkari warriors approached the community center, their heat signatures visible on the colony's sensors, Emma walked toward the main entrance. Sarah and the others took their positions according to the hastily formed plan. They were about to discover whether human ingenuity could overcome superior force. The door slid open, and Emma stepped into the alien starlight. Thrakvor and his pack waited in the settlement's central plaza, their yellow eyes reflecting the bioluminescent patterns on their ship. The pack leader's massive form dominated the space, his presence radiating predatory confidence. I am Emma Chen, she called out, her voice carrying clearly in the thin air. I understand you've requested my presence. The wolf-like alien's head tilted slightly, a gesture that might have indicated surprise. You come willingly? Most prey species require encouragement. Emma smiled again, and Sarah felt a surge of pride mixed with terror. Her little sister was about to either save them all or sacrifice herself trying. Oh, Emma said, taking another step forward. I'm not coming as prey. The silence that followed Emma's declaration stretched across the settlement like a taut wire. Thrakvor's massive form remained motionless, his predatory eyes fixed on the young human woman who stood before him with inexplicable confidence. The other Velkari warriors shifted slightly, their weapons remaining ready but their attention completely focused on this unexpected development. Not prey? The pack leader's voice carried a mixture of curiosity and amusement. Then what are you, pale-maned human? Emma took another step forward, close enough now that the alien's shadow fell across her. Sarah watched from her concealed position near the community center, her heart hammering against her ribs. The plan they had hastily constructed relied entirely on Emma's ability to think on her feet and the Velkari's unfamiliarity with human psychology. I'm a challenger, Emma said simply. Your kind values strength and hunting prowess, correct? You collect trophies from worthy opponents? Thrakvor's elongated snout curved in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth designed for tearing flesh. Indeed, but you carry no weapons, small human. Your claws are blunt, your fangs pathetic. What challenge could you possibly offer? Emma reached into her jacket pocket, and every Velkari weapon suddenly trained on her. She moved slowly, deliberately withdrawing a small device that looked innocuous enough, a standard colony survey tablet. The aliens relaxed slightly, though their alertness never wavered. This, Emma said, holding up the tablet, contains the complete biological and behavioral analysis of your species, compiled by our xenobiologist team. We've studied you for months. We know your strengths, your hunting patterns, your social hierarchy, but more importantly, we know your weaknesses. The pack leader's eyes narrowed. You claim to understand the Velkari? Impossible. We are apex predators of 17 worlds. 17 that you conquered through superior force and technology, Emma agreed, but never through superior intelligence when facing an equally clever opponent. Your success comes from encountering species that either submit immediately or fight conventionally. You've never faced anything like us. Sarah felt a mixture of pride and terror as she watched her sister stand alone before the assembled alien warriors. Emma was walking a knife's edge, deliberately provoking creatures who could tear her apart without effort. But that was exactly the point. Elaborate, Thrakvor commanded, his voice carrying genuine interest now. Around him, his pack members shifted restlessly. This conversation was unprecedented in their experience. Emma activated the tablet, its screen glowing in the alien twilight. Your pack structure relies on absolute hierarchy based on physical dominance. Your homeworld is a harsh environment where only the strongest survive to reproduce. This created a species of incredible hunters, but it also created a blind spot. She swiped through several data screens, showing biological charts and behavioral analyses. You cannot conceive of intelligence as a primary survival trait, because in your environment, physical prowess always determined success. When you encounter other species, you automatically assume they'll follow the same patterns you've seen for millions of years. The pack leader stepped closer, his massive frame towering over Emma. Sarah could see the alien's muscles tensing, could smell the musky scent that emanated from his pelt. One swipe of those clawed hands would end Emma's life instantly. And what pattern do humans follow? Thrakvor asked. Emma smiled, and Sarah recognized the expression. It was the same look their mother had worn when she was about to reveal the solution to a puzzle that had stumped everyone else. We adapt, Emma said, not just to environments or circumstances, but to opponents. We study, we learn, we innovate, and then we do something you've never encountered before. The tablet in her hands chimed softly. Around the settlement, hidden colonists received the signal they had been waiting for. Sarah activated her own device, as did Dr. Martinez, Engineer Williams, and dozens of others positioned throughout New Haven. What is this? One of the Velkari warriors demanded, his weapon beginning to charge. This, Emma said, is why you should never underestimate humans. The settlement's lighting system suddenly shifted, bathing everything in wavelengths specifically calibrated to interfere with Velkari optical processing. The aliens' enhanced night vision, perfectly adapted to their homeworld's dim red star, became a disadvantage as the carefully tuned illumination created disorienting visual distortions. Simultaneously, the colony's agricultural speakers activated, broadcasting sound frequencies that Sarah's analysis had identified as particularly disturbing to Velkari neural systems. The noise wasn't loud enough to cause permanent damage, but it was precisely calibrated to disrupt their enhanced spatial awareness and pack coordination. Impossible, Thrakvor snarled, though Sarah could see him struggling to maintain his balance as the sensory assault continued. Your technology is primitive. Our technology is adaptive, Emma corrected. We had 6 months to study you. Every visit, every interaction, every biological sample you left behind. We learned how you see, how you hear, how you think, and then we figured out how to use your own superiority against you. The Velkari warriors were now visibly disoriented, their perfect predatory coordination shattered by the carefully orchestrated sensory interference. But Emma wasn't finished. Sarah, now, she called out. From concealed positions around the settlement, the colonists activated the second phase of their plan. Modified mining equipment began releasing clouds of carefully synthesized pheromones, chemical compounds reverse-engineered from Velkari biological samples. The scents triggered instinctive responses hard-coded into their alien nervous systems, causing confusion about pack hierarchy and territorial boundaries. Thrakvor stumbled, his massive form shaking his head as conflicting sensory inputs overwhelmed his enhanced senses. Around him, his warriors were experiencing similar disorientation, their weapons wavering as they struggled to distinguish friend from foe in the chaos of false signals. Stop this, the pack leader roared, though his voice carried less authority than before. Emma remained perfectly calm in the center of the storm they had created. This is what happens when prey becomes predator, Thrakvor. When the hunted becomes the hunter. You wanted to see what humans are capable of? This is just the beginning. Dr. Martinez emerged from his concealment, carrying a modified medical scanner that was now broadcasting electromagnetic frequencies, specifically tuned to interfere with Velkari cybernetic implants. The aliens' advanced technology, integrated directly into their neural systems, began experiencing cascading failures as the human-designed interference patterns propagated through their networks. Your ship's systems are connected to your personal networks, aren't they? Emma asked conversationally, as if she weren't standing in the middle of a pack of increasingly agitated alien predators. We noticed that during your previous visits. Everything interconnected, all controlled through biological interfaces. Very efficient, also very vulnerable to someone who understands how to introduce the right kind of chaos. The Velkari ship's bioluminescent patterns began flickering erratically as the interference reached its systems. Emergency alerts sounded from within the vessel as automated systems struggled to cope with the unexpected electronic warfare. Sarah watched in amazement as her sister continued to narrate their offensive like a professor giving a lecture. See, the thing about humans is that we don't just adapt to threats. We turn them into advantages. Your superior senses become vulnerabilities when we control the environment. Your advanced technology becomes a weakness when we understand how it works better than you do. Thrakvor's eyes cleared slightly as he began to comprehend what was happening. You studied us, learned our weaknesses, but why reveal this now? You could have used these weapons when we first arrived. Emma's smile widened. Because this isn't about driving you away, pack leader. This is about earning your respect. In your culture, strength determines status, right? Well, we just demonstrated that human intelligence is a form of strength you've never encountered before. The sensory assault continued, but the Velkari were beginning to adapt, their enhanced physiology slowly compensating for the interference. Emma had known this would happen. The demonstration wasn't meant to be a permanent solution. It was meant to be a message. Turn it off, Thrakvor commanded, his voice carrying new undertones of respect mixed with wariness. We have seen enough. Emma raised her hand, and across the settlement the colonists began shutting down their devices. The disorienting lights faded back to normal, the sound frequencies ceased, and the chemical releases stopped. Within moments, the Velkari pack had regained their composure, but the damage to their assumptions about human capabilities was permanent. Now, Emma said, tucking the tablet back into her jacket, shall we discuss the terms of our coexistence as equals? The aftermath of the demonstration left an electric tension in the air. Thrakvor's massive form remained perfectly still as he processed what had just occurred. Around him, his pack members were visibly shaken, their previous confidence replaced by wary respect for the small human female who had orchestrated their humiliation. Sarah emerged from her concealment, along with the other colonists who had participated in their coordinated assault. They moved carefully, maintaining their positions but no longer hiding their presence. The dynamic had shifted, but everyone understood they were still walking on the edge of a blade. Equals, Thrakvor repeated, testing the word as if it were a foreign concept. No species has ever claimed equality with the Velkari. We are apex predators of 17 worlds. Emma nodded respectfully, and that's exactly why this conversation matters. You've conquered 17 worlds, but you've never encountered a species capable of true adaptation. Every civilization you've faced has either submitted immediately or fought with conventional weapons and tactics. We're offering you something new. The pack leader's yellow eyes studied Emma with an intensity that made Sarah's skin crawl. She could see him reassessing everything he thought he knew about humans, recalculating their threat level and potential value. What you demonstrated, he said slowly, required extensive preparation, months of study, precise coordination. This was not spontaneous survival, but deliberate strategy. Exactly, Emma agreed. We observed you observing us. We learned your patterns while you thought you were learning ours. And we prepared for the moment when you would inevitably escalate your demands. Dr. Martinez stepped forward, his medical scanner still humming with residual energy from its electromagnetic assault on the Velkari systems. Pack leader, if I may. What my colleague is trying to explain is that humans approach conflict differently than any species you've previously encountered. We don't just react to threats, we anticipate them, prepare for them, and when necessary, we neutralize them. One of the younger Velkari warriors, his scarred muzzle still twitching from the sensory overload, snarled something in their native language. Thrakvor silenced him with a sharp gesture, but Emma had caught the tone. Your subordinate is angry, she observed. He feels humiliated by our demonstration. In your culture, that shame would normally be cleansed through violence, correct? The pack leader's ears flattened slightly against his skull. Krelta believes we should tear you apart for this insult. He is young and thinks only of immediate vengeance. Emma turned to face the younger alien directly. Krelta, isn't it? You want to fight me? Test your strength against mine? The warrior's lips pulled back to reveal impressive fangs. You are prey pretending to be predator. I could snap your spine without effort. Probably, Emma agreed cheerfully. You're faster, stronger, better armed, and have natural weapons I can't match. In a fair fight, I'd lose in seconds. Sarah felt her stomach drop. What was Emma doing? They had gained the upper hand through intelligence and preparation, and now she seemed to be throwing it away by acknowledging their physical inferiority. But Emma wasn't finished. The thing is, Krelta, humans don't believe in fair fights. We believe in winning. Would you like me to demonstrate? The young Velkari looked to his pack leader, who gave a slight nod. Very well, small human. Show us your unfair fighting. Emma reached into her other pocket and withdrew what appeared to be a simple metal cylinder, about the size of a writing implement. She held it up so all the aliens could see it clearly. This, she said, is a standard emergency beacon from our medical supplies. Completely harmless, designed to broadcast distress signals. Dr. Martinez modified it yesterday after we confirmed you were returning. She pressed a button on the device's side. Immediately, every Velkari in the area stumbled as a high-frequency pulse disrupted their inner ear balance. The effect lasted only seconds, but it was enough to demonstrate the principle. Your enhanced senses are remarkable, Emma continued, deactivating the device. But they also make you vulnerable to targeted attacks that wouldn't affect humans at all. Your pack coordination relies on subsonic communication frequencies that we can jam. Your night vision can be overloaded with specific light wavelengths. Your cybernetic implants are susceptible to electromagnetic interference. Krelta shook his head, trying to clear the lingering disorientation. Tricks, cowards, weapons. Tools, Emma corrected. The difference between a trick and a tool is whether it consistently works. Humans have been using tools to overcome physically superior opponents for hundreds of thousands of years. It's not cowardice, it's evolution. Mayor Harrison stepped forward, adding his voice to the discussion. Pack leader, what Emma is trying to explain is that we're not just another species for you to hunt or collect. We're something new in your experience. We're a species that can learn, adapt, and innovate faster than you can develop countermeasures. Thrakvor's massive head tilted slightly as he considered this. You claim your kind possesses unlimited adaptability? Not unlimited, Emma said honestly, but extensive. Give us a problem and we'll find a solution. Give us an enemy and we'll find their weaknesses. Give us time and we'll find a way to win. The pack leader began pacing in the slow, measured way of a predator considering its options. His clawed feet left deep impressions in the settlement's prepared ground as he moved in a wide circle around the assembled humans. 17 worlds, he said finally. 17 species conquered. Some fought bravely. Some possessed advanced technology. Some had superior numbers. All fell to Velkari strength. He stopped directly in front of Emma again. But none anticipated us. None prepared specifically for our arrival. None turned our own advantages against us. Sarah could see the calculation happening behind those alien eyes. The Velkari were predators, but they were also intelligent. They understood when they had encountered something truly new. Your demonstration proves you can harm us, Thrakvor continued, but it also reveals your limitations. These weapons require preparation, coordination, advanced knowledge. In a sudden encounter without time to prepare, you would be helpless. Emma's smile returned, and Sarah felt a chill of recognition. Her sister was about to reveal something else they had prepared. Would we? Emma asked. She turned to Engineer Williams, who had been standing quietly near the solar collection array. Tom, would you show our guests the emergency protocols we developed? Williams nodded and activated his work tablet. Across the settlement, defensive systems that the colonists had been quietly installing for months came online. Automated turrets emerged from concealed positions, their targeting systems locking onto the Velkari signatures. Electromagnetic pulse generators hummed to life, creating interference fields around the alien weapons. Emergency barriers slid into place, creating secure fallback positions throughout New Haven. Every human settlement now includes adaptive defense systems, Emma explained as the impressive array of weaponry revealed itself. We've distributed the countermeasures we developed specifically for your species to every colony in this sector. Your advantages only work as long as your opponents don't know about them. The transformation of the seemingly defenseless farming community into a fortified position had taken less than 30 seconds. The Velkari found themselves surrounded by weapons specifically designed to neutralize their capabilities, operated by humans who had studied their weaknesses in exhaustive detail. But more importantly, they found themselves facing something they had never encountered before, a species that learned from every encounter and shared that knowledge with their entire civilization. This is why we're offering equality, rather than demanding it, Emma said, her voice carrying a new authority that made even Thrakvor listen carefully. We could have ambushed you, driven you off, maybe even captured your ship. But that would only have delayed the inevitable larger conflict between our species. She gestured to encompass the revealed defenses, the coordinated colonists, the systematic preparation that had gone into every aspect of their response. We're showing you what humans are capable of when we have time to prepare. We're also showing you what kind of allies we could be if we worked together instead of against each other. The pack leader's expression was unreadable, but Sarah could see the wheels turning. The Velkhari had built their entire civilization on the assumption that superior force would always triumph. Now they were facing a species that made force irrelevant through preparation and intelligence. And if we refuse your offer of equality? Thrakvor asked quietly. Emma's smile never wavered, but her eyes grew cold. Then you'll discover exactly how creative humans can be when we consider someone a threat to our survival. And I promise you, pack leader, that's a lesson you really don't want to learn. The tension that filled the settlement was so thick it seemed to have physical weight. Thrakvor stood motionless for long moments, his predatory gaze moving between Emma and the array of defensive systems that had emerged from seemingly innocent colonial infrastructure. Around him, his pack members shifted nervously, their usual confidence shattered by the revelation that they had walked into a carefully prepared trap. Sarah watched her sister maintain perfect composure in the face of creatures who could tear her apart without effort. Emma had positioned herself at the exact center of the defensive grid, where she would be safest if violence erupted, but also where she would be most vulnerable if the aliens chose to rush her position. It was a calculated risk that demonstrated both preparation and courage. You speak of threats, Thrakvor said finally, his voice carrying undertones that their translation software struggled to interpret. But you have revealed your hand completely. We now know your capabilities, your tactics, your defensive positions. What prevents us from returning with overwhelming force? Emma's laugh was genuinely amused. Pack leader, that's exactly the kind of thinking that made this demonstration necessary. You're still assuming that what you see is all we have. She activated her tablet again, bringing up a new display that showed the orbital space around. Kepler 442b, red dots marked the positions of what appeared to be several dozen objects in various orbits around the planet. Automated defense satellites, Emma explained casually, launched over the past 6 months using modified cargo pods and powered by fusion cells from our reactor systems. Each one is equipped with kinetic impactors and electromagnetic pulse charges specifically designed to disable Velkhari ship systems. Kreltos snarled something in his native language that the translator couldn't process, but the meaning was clear from his tone. Thrakvor silenced him again with a sharp gesture. Impossible, the pack leader said. Our sensors detected no orbital weapons during our approaches. Because they weren't active, Dr. Martinez interjected. Completely passive until triggered by specific activation codes. Your own stealth technology inspired our approach. Sometimes the best way to hide something is to make it look like space. Debris. Emma swiped to another screen showing similar installations throughout the star system. We've also established supply caches and communication relays on the outer moons. If this colony were destroyed, the defensive network would automatically activate and begin systematic harassment of any Velkhari vessels in the system. The implications were staggering. The humans had not only prepared for this specific encounter, but had built an entire strategic framework around the possibility of extended conflict with a technologically superior opponent. You would sacrifice your own settlement to damage our ships? Thrakvor asked, and for the first time Sarah heard something like respect in his voice. If necessary, Emma replied without hesitation, but we'd prefer not to. That's why we're having this conversation instead of simply activating the grid and watching your ship fall out of the sky. Mayor Harrison stepped forward, his weathered face showing the strain of the past few hours. Pack leader, I've been in contact with other human settlements throughout this sector. Similar defensive networks are being established on every world we've colonized. Your species isn't just dealing with New Haven anymore. You're dealing with humanity as a whole. The pack leader's ears flattened against his skull as he processed this information. The Velkari had built their empire by isolating their opponents, conquering one world at a time before moving on to the next target. The idea of facing a coordinated multi-system defense was clearly outside their experience. Your kind shares information across vast distances, he observed. Coordinates responses between worlds. Instantly, Emma confirmed. Quantum communication arrays. Every human settlement is connected to every other human settlement in real time. When you attacked us, you attacked all of humanity. When we developed countermeasures, we shared them with everyone. Sarah could see the alien warrior's worldview cracking under the weight of these revelations. The Velkari had never faced an opponent who could coordinate across interstellar distances, who could turn every encounter into a learning experience for their entire species. But Emma wasn't finished. There's something else you should know, Pack Leader. Something about human psychology that makes us different from every other species you've conquered. She gestured to the colonists who surrounded them, farmers and engineers and scientists who had willingly placed themselves in harm's way to execute this elaborate demonstration. When you threaten one of us, you threaten all of us. When you demand tribute from a human settlement, every human in the galaxy takes it personally. We don't just adapt to threats, we eliminate them permanently. The young warrior Krelta stepped forward, his predatory instincts finally overriding his pack leader's commands for restraint. You speak of elimination? You are prey animals with delusions of... He never finished the sentence. Emma's hand moved with practiced precision, activating a small device attached to her belt. The sonic pulse that emerged was precisely calibrated to Velkari neural frequencies, causing immediate disorientation and temporary paralysis. Krelta collapsed to the ground, his enhanced nervous system overwhelmed by the targeted acoustic assault. As I was saying, Emma continued without missing a beat, while the other Velkari stared in shock at their fallen pack member. We eliminate threats permanently. Thrakvor looked down at his paralyzed subordinate, then back at Emma with new understanding. You carried that weapon throughout our entire conversation. Multiple weapons, Emma corrected. Each one designed specifically for different Velkari physiological vulnerabilities. I could have incapacitated your entire pack at any point during this meeting. The pack leader's eyes narrowed. But you did not. Because that would have been wasteful, Emma explained. Krelta will recover in a few minutes with no permanent damage. He'll also have learned that human prey animals are considerably more dangerous than he assumed. Sarah felt a surge of pride watching her sister demonstrate the kind of controlled precision that defined human conflict resolution. They had the capability to destroy their opponents utterly, but they chose to apply exactly the minimum force necessary to achieve their objectives. This is the difference between us and every other species you've encountered, Emma continued. We don't just fight to win. We fight to create the conditions where fighting becomes unnecessary. She knelt beside the paralyzed Velkari warrior, whose eyes were still conscious and aware despite his temporary inability to move. Krelta, when you recover, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that I could have killed you but chose not to. Remember that humans preferred to teach rather than destroy. Standing back up, she addressed Thrakvor directly. That's what we're offering your entire species, Pack Leader. The choice to learn rather than die. The alien predator stood perfectly still as he processed the full implications of what he had witnessed. His pack had been systematically neutralized by a species they had dismissed as primitive prey. Their technological advantages had been turned against them. Their tactical superiority had been rendered irrelevant by superior preparation. Most importantly, they had been shown mercy when their opponents held overwhelming advantage. You could have destroyed our ship when we first arrived, Thrakvor said slowly. Yes. You could have killed us all during this demonstration. Yes. But instead you offer cooperation. Emma smiled. We offer evolution, Pack Leader. Your species has reached the limits of what can be achieved through conquest alone. We're showing you what becomes possible when predators learn to work with prey that isn't actually prey. From the ground, Krelta made a weak sound as motor function began returning to his paralyzed limbs. Emma immediately knelt and helped him sit up, offering water from her personal supply. The gesture of care towards someone who had just threatened her was not lost on the assembled Velkari. This is human nature, she explained to Thrakvor while supporting his injured subordinate. We prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and always leave room for our enemies to become our friends. The pack leader watched his pack member accept assistance from the human female he had tried to intimidate. When Krell-Ta met his eyes, Sarah could see something new in the younger alien's expression. Not submission, but thoughtful respect. "You have given us much to consider," Thrakvor said finally. "We will return to our ship to discuss what we have learned." Emma stood, helping Krell-Ta regain his footing. "You're welcome to stay and observe our settlement if you'd like. We have no secrets from potential allies." The pack leader's ears pricked forward in what might have been surprise. "You would trust us with access to your technology? Your defensive systems? Trust is earned through interaction," Emma replied. "Besides, everything you've seen today will be obsolete within a month. Humans don't stand still, pack leader. We're always improving, always adapting, always preparing for new challenges." She paused, her expression growing serious. "The question is whether your species wants to be part of that growth, or whether you prefer to remain stuck in patterns that worked in the past but won't survive the future." 3 months had passed since the Velkari pack departed New Haven, their massive ship disappearing into the depths of space, carrying news that would shake the foundation of their ancient empire. During that time, the human settlements throughout the sector had continued their relentless preparation and expansion, driven by Emma Chen's philosophy that peace required strength and strength required constant innovation. Sarah stood in the expanded communication center of New Haven, monitoring data streams from dozens of human colonies across multiple star systems. The defensive networks that Emma had revealed to Thrakvor had grown exponentially, but they represented only the visible portion of humanity's preparations for whatever decision the Velkari High-Pack Council would reach. "Incoming. Transmission from the Kepler 442 monitoring station," announced Communications Officer Rodriguez, his voice tight with tension. Multiple Velkari signatures detected at the system's edge. Massive fleet configuration. The main display flickered to life, showing sensor readings that made Sarah's breath catch. Where Thrakvor had arrived with a single ship, the approaching force consisted of dozens of vessels arranged in the distinctive hunting formation that the Velkari used for planetary conquest. "Well," Emma said calmly from her position at the central console, "I guess we have our answer." Mayor Harrison joined them, his face grim as he studied the tactical display. "Fleet composition analysis shows at least 40 vessels, including several we haven't seen before. Looks like they brought everything they could spare." Emma activated the colony-wide communication system. "Citizens of New Haven, this is Emma Chen. As we anticipated, the Velkari have returned in force. Implementation of protocol. 7 begins immediately. All non-essential personnel to secure positions. All defensive systems to active status." Around the settlement, the colonists moved with practiced efficiency born of months of preparation. The defensive grid that had impressed Thrakvor was merely the first layer of a much more sophisticated system that had been under constant development since his departure. "Sarah, what's the status of the orbital platforms?" Emma asked, her fingers dancing across multiple control interfaces simultaneously. "Fully operational and armed," Sarah replied, pulling up the relevant displays. Kinetic impactors locked and loaded, EMP charges primed, stealth fields active. They still read as space debris on Velkari sensors. Emma nodded, then activated a secure channel to the other human settlements. "This is New Haven control to all colonies. Velkari fleet inbound with apparent hostile intent. Implement coordinated response alpha." Repeat, coordinated response alpha. Across the star system, on moons and asteroids and hidden stations that the Velkari had never detected, human installations came alive with deadly purpose. The network that Emma had built was about to face its ultimate test. "Incoming transmission from the Velkari fleet," Rodriguez announced. "It's Thrakvor, but he's not alone." The main screen shifted to show the interior of what was clearly a much larger and more impressive vessel than the pack leader's previous ship. Thrakvor stood to one side, his scarred muzzle showing signs of recent combat. Beside him loomed a massive Velkari whose presence seemed to dominate even their alien architecture. "I am Gorthmak, Supreme Alpha of the Velkari Empire," the enormous alien announced, his voice carrying authority that made the translation software struggle to convey its full impact. "Thrakvor has shared interesting reports about this world and its inhabitants." Emma stepped forward, her posture confident despite facing what was clearly the most powerful individual in Velkari civilization. "Supreme Alpha, I am Emma Chen, speaking for the human settlements in this system. We hoped your council would choose cooperation, but we prepared for the alternative. Gorthmak's predatory features twisted in what might have been amusement. Thrakvor spoke of your preparations, clever tricks and hidden weapons, but you face the full might of the Velkari war fleet now. Small human, your deceptions will not save you. Deceptions? Emma's voice carried genuine confusion. Supreme Alpha, everything we showed your pack leader was completely accurate. We simply didn't show him everything. She activated her personal tablet, and across the system, previously invisible installations began broadcasting active sensor signals. The Velkari fleet's displays suddenly filled with targeting data, as hundreds of weapons platforms revealed themselves throughout the star system. What you see now, Emma continued calmly, represents approximately 10% of our actual defensive capability. The other 90% remains hidden, waiting to see whether you've come to negotiate or to die. On the main screen, Sarah could see the bridge crew of the Velkari flagship reacting with shock, as their sensors detected threat signatures that hadn't existed moments before. The humans had turned an apparently empty star system into a kill zone of staggering proportions. Impossible, Gorthmak snarled. No primitive species possesses such capabilities. We're not primitive, Emma replied. We're adaptable. There's a difference. Thrakvor stepped forward, addressing his Supreme Alpha in their native language. The translation software caught fragments of his rapid speech, but the meaning was clear. He was explaining what he had witnessed during his previous visit, trying to make his leader understand the true nature of what they faced. Gorthmak silenced him with a gesture, then turned his attention back to the human communication channel. Your hidden weapons are impressive, but they are defensive. Fixed installations. We can retreat beyond their range and bombard this world until nothing survives. Emma's smile was patient, almost maternal. You could try that, Supreme Alpha, but you should know that every weapon system you're currently detecting is mobile. They can pursue your fleet anywhere in this system. And beyond that, she paused, activating another control sequence. Throughout local space, quantum communication beacons came online, establishing real-time links with every human settlement within 50 light years. Every human colony is now coordinating their response to your arrival. If you destroy us, you'll face the combined military might of our entire species. Not just in this system, but everywhere humanity has established a foothold. The implications were staggering. The Velkari had never faced an opponent capable of coordinating across interstellar distances in real time. Their entire military doctrine was based on isolating and conquering individual worlds before moving on to the next target. You would sacrifice yourselves to spite us? Gorthmak asked, and for the first time his voice carried uncertainty. We would sacrifice ourselves to protect our species, Emma corrected, but more importantly we would win. Supreme Alpha, your fleet represents the largest military force your empire can field. Our defensive systems in this system alone could cripple it beyond repair. Add the coordinated response from our other colonies, and your empire would face total military collapse. Sarah watched the alien leader's expression as he processed this information. The Velkari had built their civilization on the principle that superior force always triumphed. They had never encountered a species that could make force irrelevant through superior preparation and coordination. But, Emma continued, her tone shifting to something more conciliatory, we'd rather avoid that outcome entirely. Supreme Alpha, what would your empire gain from destroying us? One conquered world? The temporary satisfaction of eliminating a perceived threat? She gestured to encompass the vast network of human installations now revealed throughout the system. Compare that to what we could accomplish together. Humans excel at adaptation and innovation. Velkari excel at exploration and conquest. Combined, our species could achieve things that neither could accomplish alone. On the screen, Thrakvor stepped forward again, his scarred features showing the strain of trying to bridge two incompatible worldviews. Supreme Alpha, during my time on their world, I observed their methods closely. They do not simply defeat enemies, they convert them into allies. Their strength comes not from individual prowess, but from their ability to make others strong as well. Emma nodded appreciatively. Thrakvor understands what we're offering. Not submission or domination, but genuine partnership. Your empire has conquered 17 worlds through superior force. Imagine what you could achieve with 18 worlds working together voluntarily. Gorthmak's massive form remained motionless for long moments, as he considered this proposal. Around him, the bridge crew of his flagship waited for orders that would determine the fate of both species. "You speak of partnership," he said finally, "but partnership requires equal contribution. What could your kind offer that would benefit the Velkari Empire?" Emma's smile widened, and Sarah recognized the expression that meant her sister had been waiting for exactly this question. "Supreme Alpha," Emma said. "Let me show you what humanity has learned about the galaxy since we started exploring it. And more importantly, let me show you the threats that are coming for both our species. Threats that neither of us can face alone." The main display shifted to show a star map covering thousands of light years, dotted with markers indicating various civilizations, resource deposits, and most ominously, large areas marked in red that pulsed with threatening significance. "The galaxy is larger and more dangerous than either of our species realized," Emma continued. "And if we're going to survive—" The star map that Emma displayed sent a ripple of visible concern through the Velkari bridge crew. The red zones she had highlighted covered vast swaths of galactic space, pulsing with an ominous rhythm that suggested imminent threat rather than distant possibility. "What am I looking at?" Gorthmak demanded, his predatory instincts clearly triggered by the display. Emma manipulated the controls, zooming in on the nearest red zone. 3 months ago, we lost contact with the human colony at Ross 128. Initial assumption was equipment failure. When we sent a reconnaissance probe, we found this. The display shifted to show telescopic images of a dead world. Where there should have been a thriving settlement of 10,000 humans, there was only crystalline devastation. The planet's surface had been transformed into geometric patterns of some translucent material that gleamed with unnatural light. Total population converted into crystalline matrix. Emma continued, her voice carefully controlled. No survivors, no bodies, no debris. Just perfect geometric structures that our xenobiologists can't classify. Thrakvor stepped closer to his Supreme Alpha, speaking in rapid Velkari. Sarah caught fragments through the translation software, words that roughly corresponded to impossible, unnatural, and devourers. "You know something about this," Emma observed, noting the pack leader's reaction. "Your empire has encountered this before." Gorthmak's expression had shifted from territorial aggression to something approaching fear. "Show me the other zones," he commanded. Emma expanded the display, revealing the full scope of the red markers across known space. 17 separate incidents over the past year, not just human colonies. We've detected similar crystalline transformations at the sites of former Altarian settlements, Centauri trade stations, even what appears to be a Velkari outpost in the Vega sector. The Supreme Alpha's ears flattened against his skull. The Vega outpost contained 3,000 of our finest warriors. They reported strange signals, geometric patterns in space, then silence. "The pattern is accelerating," Sarah interjected, pulling up temporal analysis data. 6 months between the first and second incidents. 3 months between the second and third. The most recent 3 happened within the same week. Emma nodded grimly. "Whatever this force is, it's not just expanding, it's learning, getting faster at the conversion process. Our xenobiological teams estimate that at the current rate of acceleration, it will reach both our core systems within 18 months. The implications hung in the space between the two species like a death sentence. The Velkari Empire and human space were separated by hundreds of light years, but the crystalline threat was approaching from multiple vectors simultaneously. Our fleets combined could not stand against such a force," Gorthmak admitted, his voice carrying the bitter taste of acknowledging limitation. "The Velkari way of war is useless against an enemy that converts rather than conquers." "Exactly," Emma agreed. "This isn't a threat that can be defeated through superior firepower or tactical brilliance. It requires something neither of our species has ever attempted: genuine cooperation on a scale that spans the galaxy." She manipulated the display again, showing predictive models based on the crystalline threat's expansion pattern. "But there's something else, something that gives us hope." The star map shifted to highlight a cluster of systems near the galactic edge where the red zones had suddenly stopped expanding. Where the crystalline tide should have continued its relentless advance, there was now a stable boundary marked in blue. "The Zephyrian Collective," Emma explained, "a confederation of 17 different species that we've only recently made contact with. They've successfully halted the crystalline advance in their sector through coordinated defense and what they call Harmonic disruption. Thrakvor's ears pricked forward with interest. Multiple species working together? Successfully. More than successfully, Emma confirmed. They've actually begun reversing the crystalline conversion in some areas, restoring dead worlds to their original state. But their methods require precise coordination between multiple different types of technology and consciousness. She paused, looking directly at Gorthmak. The kind of coordination that could only be achieved by species that trust each other completely. The Supreme Alpha was silent for long moments, processing the full implications of what he was hearing. His empire had been built on the principle of Velkhari superiority, on the assumption that their species was destined to dominate all others. Now he was being shown that survival itself might depend on abandoning those principles. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked finally. Emma activated another control sequence, and the display shifted to show detailed schematics of the defensive network surrounding New Haven. Joint development of harmonic disruption technology. Combined research teams studying the crystalline samples we've recovered. Coordinated defense networks spanning both our territories. The schematics revealed just how sophisticated human preparation had become. The weapons that had impressed Thrakvor months earlier were primitive compared to the systems now being displayed. Quantum resonance disruptors, synchronized gravitational field generators, consciousness interfaced targeting systems that required both human intuition and Velkhari predatory instincts to operate effectively. This technology requires both our species, Emma continued, human adaptability to develop the basic principles, Velkhari precision to implement them effectively. Neither of us could create these systems alone. Sarah stepped forward, adding her voice to the discussion. Supreme Alpha, we've run extensive simulations based on the data from the Zephyrian Collective. Even working together, we estimate only a 60% chance of successfully halting the crystalline advance before it reaches our core systems. But, Emma interjected, those odds improve dramatically with each additional species that joins the alliance. The Zephyrian model suggests that a confederation of at least a dozen species has an 85% chance of not just stopping the threat, but eliminating it entirely. The bridge of the Velkhari flagship had fallen completely silent. Even the subordinate pack members seemed to understand that they were witnessing a pivotal moment in galactic history. You're asking us to abandon everything that defines Velkhari civilization, Gorthmak said slowly, to work as equals with species we have always dominated. I'm asking you to evolve, Emma replied simply. The same way humans evolved when we realized that cooperation was more powerful than competition. The same way the Zephyrians evolved when they faced extinction and chose unity over isolation. She gestured to encompass both the human settlement below and the Velkhari fleet surrounding it. Supreme Alpha, 3 hours ago our species were enemies. Now we're potential allies facing a common threat. That kind of transformation is exactly what evolution looks like. Thrakvor stepped forward, his scarred features showing the strain of trying to bridge two incompatible worldviews. Supreme Alpha, I have observed these humans closely. Their strength comes not from individual prowess, but from their ability to make others strong. If we ally with them, we do not become weak. We become something more than we were. Emma nodded appreciatively. Thrakvor understands the principle. Cooperation doesn't diminish strength, it multiplies it. Your empire conquered 17 worlds through superior force. Imagine what you could accomplish with hundreds of worlds working together voluntarily. The display shifted one final time, showing a projection of what galactic civilization could look like if the crystalline threat were defeated. Thousands of star systems connected by trade, communication, and mutual defense networks. Multiple species contributing their unique strengths to a confederation that spanned the galaxy. This is what we're offering, Emma said. Not just survival, but transformation into something greater than the sum of our parts. Gorthmak studied the projection for long moments, his predatory mind calculating possibilities that had never existed before. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of a decision that would reshape galactic civilization. The High Pack Council will need to deliberate, he said formally, but I will recommend that we accept your alliance. The Velkhari Empire will join this confederation if you will have us as true equals. Emma's smile was radiant. Supreme Alpha, we wouldn't want you any other way. Around them, the tension that had defined the encounter began to transform into something else entirely. The beginning of a partnership that would soon span the stars and face down threats that neither species could have imagined facing, alone. There is one condition, Gorthmak added, his expression growing serious. If we are to work together as equals, then we must understand each other completely. I propose a cultural exchange. Velkari observers living among human settlements, human liaisons aboard our ships. Emma nodded immediately. Agreed, and I know exactly who should lead the human delegation. She turned to Sarah, whose eyes widened in surprise. Congratulations, sister. You're about to become humanity's first interstellar ambassador. Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and terror as she realized she was about to embark on a journey that would take her further from home than any human had ever traveled. But looking at the Velkari warriors who would soon become allies rather than enemies, she knew this was exactly where she needed to be. 2 years had passed since the alliance between humanity and the Velkari Empire transformed from desperate necessity into genuine partnership. The crystalline threat had continued its relentless advance across the galaxy, but now it faced something unprecedented in its existence: coordinated resistance from multiple species working in perfect harmony. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Apex Harmony, a vessel that represented the pinnacle of joint human-Velkari engineering. Around her, the bridge crew consisted of both species working seamlessly together, their different strengths complementing each other in ways that neither could have achieved alone. Incoming transmission from the Zephyrian Collective, announced Lieutenant Torres, the human communications officer, Admiral Gorthmak. They're confirming participation in the final assault. The massive Velkari commander, his scarred features now bearing additional marks of honor earned through 2 years of cooperative warfare, nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. That brings our total force to 437 vessels from 12 different species. Sarah studied the tactical display that showed the assembled fleet in all its magnificent diversity. Human adaptability vessels with their modular weapon systems, Velkari hunters with their predatory precision targeting, Zephyrian harmony ships that could synchronize the consciousness of entire crews, Altarian quantum manipulators that bent space-time to their will, and representatives from 8 other species, each contributing their unique capabilities to what was about to become the largest coordinated military action in galactic history. Status report on the harmonic disruption array? Sarah asked, turning to her Velkari counterpart at the science station. Pack leader Krell Ta, the same warrior who had once threatened Emma and was now one of humanity's strongest allies, consulted his instruments. All resonance generators synchronized. Quantum harmonics stable across the entire fleet. The array is ready for deployment. The bridge of the Apex Harmony represented more than just military cooperation. It was a symbol of evolutionary transformation that had spread throughout both civilizations. Sarah wore a modified version of human colonial gear, adapted with Velkari sensory enhancements that allowed her to perceive threats and opportunities that would have been invisible to unaugmented human senses. Beside her, Krelta bore honorific scarring that had been adapted from human artistic traditions, marking his achievements in the cooperative campaigns they had fought together. Enemy contact, announced the Velkari sensor operator. Crystalline fleet approaching from Vector 77 Mark 12. Configuration matches predictive models. Full geometric array with conversion beams active. The main display shifted to show their target, the central hub of the crystalline network, a massive construct that stretched across an entire star system. For 2 years, they had fought the expanding threat on dozens of fronts, learning its patterns, developing countermeasures, saving what worlds they could. But this was different. This was the source. All ships, this is Admiral Gorthmak. The Velkari commander's voice carried across the fleet communication network. Today we end the crystalline threat permanently. Remember your training, trust your allies, and show the galaxy what cooperation can accomplish. Sarah activated her own communication channel, addressing the human contingent within the massive fleet. This is Ambassador Sarah Chen to all human vessels. 2 years ago, my sister Emma stood before alien predators and refused to accept the role of prey. Today we stand beside those same aliens as partners, as equals, as friends. Let's finish what she started. The crystalline fleet was unlike anything in their experience, where the organic ships of the various alliance species showed curves and irregular surfaces. The enemy vessels were perfect geometric constructs that seemed to bend light and space around them. Their weapons didn't fire projectiles or energy beams, they projected patterns of transformation that attempted to convert matter and consciousness into crystalline matrix. Initiate. Harmonic disruption sequence, Admiral Gorthmak commanded. Throughout the Allied fleet, resonance generators came online in perfect synchronization. The technology that Emma had hinted at during the first encounter with Thrakfor had been refined and perfected through 2 years of cooperative research and development. Human understanding of consciousness and adaptation, combined with Velkari precision and hunting instincts, coordinated by Zephyrian harmonic principles, and amplified by the unique capabilities of 9 other species. The effect was immediate and devastating to the crystalline fleet. The perfect geometric patterns that defined their vessels began to distort as harmonic frequencies disrupted the quantum coherence that held their structure together. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before started to unravel at the molecular level. Direct hit on the central construct, reported the Altarian quantum specialist. Structural integrity dropping rapidly. But the crystalline network was adapting as it always did. The remaining enemy vessels began to reconfigure themselves, their geometric patterns shifting to compensate for the harmonic disruption. Sarah could see their defenses evolving in real time, exactly as the Alliance strategists had predicted. Phase 2, she announced. All vessels implement adaptive resonance protocols. This was where human creativity truly shone. Instead of maintaining static harmonic frequencies, the Alliance ships began to modulate their disruption patterns in chaotic sequences that followed no predictable pattern. The crystalline vessels, designed to analyze and counter systematic approaches, found themselves unable to adapt to attacks that deliberately defied logic and consistency. The central hub is breaking apart, Krelta reported, his voice carrying the satisfaction of a successful hunt. Crystalline matrix cascade failure detected throughout the system. On the main display, Sarah watched as the massive construct that had been the source of galactic terror began to collapse in on itself. The perfect geometric forms that had represented order imposed through force were giving way to the beautiful chaos of organic creativity and cooperative innovation. But more importantly, throughout the galaxy, the red zones on their star maps were beginning to shift. As the central hub failed, the crystalline conversion process reversed itself across hundreds of light years. Dead worlds began to show signs of returning life. Converted populations started to emerge from crystalline matrices, their consciousness restored and their bodies healed. Incoming transmission from the Ross 128 system, Lieutenant Torres announced, her voice thick with emotion. It's the colonists. They're alive. They're all alive. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as she realized what they had accomplished. The human settlement that had been among the first to fall to the crystalline threat was reporting successful restoration. 10,000 people who had been presumed dead for over 2 years were alive and returning to normal consciousness. This is what we've achieved, Admiral Gorthmak said, his predatory features showing an expression that Sarah had learned to recognize as deep satisfaction. Not just victory over an enemy, but restoration of what was lost. The communication channels filled with reports from across the galaxy. Species that had been consumed by the crystalline advance were being restored. Worlds that had been converted were returning to life. The threat that had seemed unstoppable had not just been defeated, it had been reversed. Admiral, Sarah said, turning to her Velkari partner. Permission to send a message to New Haven? Gorthmak's fanged smile was genuine. Of course, Ambassador. I believe your sister will want to hear about this. Sarah activated a quantum communication link to Kepler 442b, where Emma still coordinated the expanding network of cooperative civilizations. When her sister's face appeared on the screen, Sarah could see the pride and joy that filled her expression. Sarah, we've been monitoring the battle from here. Is it really over? It's over, Sarah confirmed. The crystalline threat has been eliminated, and the conversion process is reversing throughout the galaxy. Emma, we did it. All of us together. Emma's smile was radiant. You did more than that, sister. You proved that evolution doesn't end with individual species. It continues with civilizations, with cooperation, with the courage to become something greater than what you were. Around the bridge of the Apex Harmony, Representatives of 12 different species worked together with the casual familiarity of a crew that had transcended the boundaries of their individual origins. Human intuition coordinated with Velkari precision. Zephyrian harmony amplified Altarian quantum manipulation, each species contributing their strengths while compensating for each other's weaknesses. "What's our next objective?" Krelta asked, and Sarah realized that the question came naturally from someone who had once been their enemy and was now one of their closest allies. Emma's voice carried across the communication link with characteristic determination. "The same as it's always been. We explore, we learn, we grow, and when we find new challenges that no single species can face alone, we face them together." Sarah looked around the bridge of their joint vessel, at the Velkari warriors who had become brothers and sisters in arms, at the representatives of species they had met during their campaign against the crystalline threat, at the technology that had emerged from combining the best of Imwaniao